Welcome to today's episode of my Feelings Over Tea podcast. I am excited to have you joining me. I am your host, Dr. Nikisha, and today's episode is about exploring how we navigate a transition within a transition. The journey of moving from a corporate job to aligning with your true purpose. It's a shift that doesn't just affect your career, but it can also deeply impact your mental health and your emotional well being. So, my guest today, y'all, I got a fabulous guest. I'm so excited to share her with you and all of her many gifts and talents. Miss Candice Jackson Long is the founder of CJL Consulting Group, a marketing strategy consulting firm that provides small businesses and nonprofits a simple way to market their business so they can stand out and sell more. And I don't know who doesn't want to sell more, so this is what Candice does. Candice speaks on the power of branding to stand out in a competitive market, how to get the most out of your marketing budget, and legacy building through branding. Additionally, Candice is an avid traveler who loves to experience new things. She will not be found in her comfort zone because she knows there is something greater beyond it. So, listen, if y'all ain't already excited about Miss Candice just from her bio, we're going to have this powerful conversation today that I'm excited to dive into. We're going to explore aha moments that lead us to realize why certain roles may not have been the role for us, and then why certain jobs come to an end. We'll ponder how in the heck do you manage riding this emotional roller coaster of leaving these stable jobs, knowing it might just disrupt your life. So, we're going to dive into that and see what comes out of it. And then lastly, let's talk about those fears and doubts that we all face in big transitions because they are a real thing. So I want to encourage you in this episode to think about what are some of your biggest fears? What are some of your biggest doubts? And how have you pushed through them? And maybe you're in a place where you're stuck and you're like, I don't know what to do. Well, I want to tell you that this episode today is for you. So we're going to dive in. I'm excited to get ready for this conversation. So let's dive in right here and right now. Let's go. Welcome to my Feelings Over Tea podcast, where experts and everyday people will sip tea and spill the tea about all things life and mental health related. So grab yourself a cup of tea and join me, your host, Dr. Nikisha Tolbert Banks, for hot topics, helping you to cut through the muck of life and live your life well in my Feelings Over Tea podcast, right here and right now. All right, I am back and I'm excited. I've got Miss Candice Jackson Long here with us today. She is going to drop some nuggets of knowledge, some wisdom. She's going to share a little bit about her journey. Candice, welcome to the
Thank
show.
you, Keisha. Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes, yes. Can y'all feel the energy? I'm telling you, she's here, she's ready. I'm ready to just dive in. So, Candice, thank you, thank you, thank you again for being here with me. Let's talk about the aha moment that led you to realize that your last position was no longer the right fit for you.
That aha moment was I was in conversation with my supervisor. And, it was a time of performance reviews and talking about promotions and raises. And I learned that there was actually, within the position that I was in, there were two tiers to the position.
Wow.
So when I accepted the offer, I thought I was coming in at a higher level because
Mm,
of the way the title was and the pay and things of that nature. It wasn't until I was in the job couple of years
Yeah.
in, and I noticed that there were two others. We worked as a collaborative across different verticals, right? So we
Hmm.
managed a different function or a different product, but one of which had a slightly different title. So the words were sort of rearranged.
Yeah.
But it didn't, the title, you know how you have certain titles, whether it be like supervisor or operations, like it could be, but still be on the same level depending on
Yeah.
where you are, different organizations. So titles I pay attention to, but I don't put a lot of stock in because based on the org chart, one title, you could be a director level in one organization, but that same director level in another organization, you could just simply be a manager. You know what I
For
mean?
sure.
So it
Yeah. Yeah.
really just
Yeah.
depends on the hierarchy. But then I learned that that slight variation in the title also affected the pay. So in that review, it was like part of, and she, amazing supervisor, it wasn't her fault. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Her charge, our conversation during that review was her working to rectify that.
Got you. Okay, good. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
while I appreciated that effort, I felt deceived
Mm,
because that was not made clear during that process. And it just let me know that, wow, okay, here go the game again. Here go the
yeah.
game again. And it just felt like for me personally, along my career journey, is every time I thought I was ascending to hit another ceiling. And that was the aha moment for me.
And many of us know all too well that ceiling that you're talking about. And so when you hit it, it's just like, okay, here we are again. So
Yep.
let's talk about how you navigated just that emotional and mental health shift
Yeah.
in hitting that ceiling, but then kind of
Yeah.
recognizing what's happening in this aha moment.
So one thing first, you have to understand about me is I'm a faith-based person. Everything for me flows from there. I have a very strong and continuing to be developed spiritual foundation. I'm part of a ministry that does a really good job of teaching us how to prepare for life moments. So my pastor
Mhm.
always says, we're not a Sunday church, we're a Monday church.
Come on now.
Principles is like teaching us how to navigate through real life. It's one
Hmm.
thing to be spiritually and emotionally fulfilled on Sunday, but then you get to
Yeah,
work on Monday and you don't have the tools to navigate.
for sure.
So a lot of that I have been equipped with,
Hmm.
but there's nothing that prepares you for when you are actually walking through those moments, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the lessons that we get in church is you put it in your back pocket, and there's principles for you. It's like going into the fridge when you're hungry.
Right.
An appetite, a need, you know where to go and you know what to get when to satisfy that need. So first, and I'm in full transparency, I told my husband, and I was like, "You believe this?"
Right? Because that's real.
So first, I had to be in the world and be like, "You believe this?" And then after I got the world out, then I go back into the spiritual bag, like, all right, let me make sense of what's happening.
Right, 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 right.
So it reaffirmed a couple of things that God was pushing me towards entrepreneurship. And
Mm,
this wasn't the first time. I had a business before this, which ironically was tied to a job situation.
okay.
I went to pivot into public relations,
Hmm.
and that was earlier in my career. And I didn't have a lot of experience in public relations, but I
Yeah.
could get a job, so I couldn't get the experience. So it's like, how do you need ID to get ID?
Right, right.
You
Which
know
is
what I mean?
crazy. Right. Yeah.
So it was one of those situations, and I created my own opportunity. I started my own PR firm, and from there, I launched a local television show and got a lot of media coverage and got sponsorships and stuff like that.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
through doing that, got me my next job.
Yeah.
So it has, when I look at my career path, I've started to see the pattern, how God uses jobs and stuff like that.
Mm,
So in this situation, he had told me 2 years prior to the aha moment that you need to start your business. So I always freelanced on the side with what I did, but I always just, treat it as like a little side hustle if I felt like doing it, you know
for
what I mean?
sure.
Kind of deal. But I got the prompting to, you need to take this freelancing a lot more seriously and turn it into a real business. So I didn't listen in the first.
Some of us are hard-headed like that, right?
So finally I got the message and I established the business and the entity and started doing those things. So
Mm,
I was building my business slowly on the side, but always with the intent that my corporate job would be the priority, you
for
know?
sure. Yeah,
So when I decided to do that, that aha moment was like, okay, I think this is why I need to do the business.
sure.
And frustration is an indication that something needs to change. So after I really started to sit with God and was like, why is this happening again?
Mhm.
What did you
Yeah,
teach me
yeah,
again that I
yeah,
didn't get the first time? And it was like, you have to pursue this path. You have to
yeah,
build this business. So it prompted me to, okay, we're gonna do corporate over here, keep that going, but I really need to start shifting my mindset around
yeah,
actually treating and running this business.
yeah. Man, it's you dropped so much there, and it's so good because I think the one part to what you just shared about your journey is that, especially when you're coming from a faith background and perspective, and that's your foundation, that going into the flesh is just like, that's dealing with the real. Like, these are real feelings, real emotions, real thoughts that I'm having because in my flesh, I feel something that obviously it needs to get worked out of you in order to get to a place where you can better understand, right? From a logical perspective, what's happening? Where am I going? What is God trying to do? But in order to get there, it's kind of like I got to purge all of these big emotions and big feelings, right? To get to that next point of really being able to put some foundational understanding and meaning to this. So when you think about, I guess, the journey and how you navigated all of this, what were some of the biggest fears or doubts that you faced in that transition, and how did you overcome that? Because that's a beast. That can be a big beast.
So I'm still overcoming it. Each day I get up to walk this path, I'm still overcoming it. I don't think there's any big moment that you overcome. I think it's micro decisions that you make every day to show up.
That's good.
Some of the big fears that I have, I suffer heavily with imposter syndrome. It is, to use the proverbial, thorn in my side, and it stays there for a reason.
Mm,
Because it's also the thing that pushes me to work hard. And, I'm an avid learner. So I'm always studying,
sure.
reading,
Yeah.
pushing, and, things just excellence is like the baseline, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is because of that. It's because of
Yeah.
that. But it also can be crippling, and
Yeah.
it will take me out of alignment and purpose, and it'll stop
Mhm.
from pursuing what I'm supposed to do. Fear is a big part of that. One thing I'm had to deal with entrepreneurship, I knew most of the things, like fear of lack of money and failure and all of those things. What I had not accounted for in going along in this journey is how much of my childhood traumas I would have to face. I did not know that. I was not prepared for that. I just did not. I didn't
Yeah.
know how much emotional traumas, how much of the parts of me that, quite frankly, have served me very well and brought me a
Yeah.
lot of success has to now be shed to be taken into this next season of life. I'm a type A person. I'm a planner. I'm an organizer. I like to have everything set in place, prepared,
Yeah.
perfectionism. We always got to be high level up here. Everything got to be
Right.
right. You know what I mean? What we're taught, you don't come out the house unless everything is looking right.
Together.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Do
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So that is what has propelled me to where I am. In entrepreneurship, girl, you gotta build a plane while you're flying it.
Ma'am.
Okay,
That part.
perfectionism is a form of procrastination, and it is a fear of fear. It's a form of fear that causes delay.
Mhm.
And the reality is, and I'm a marketer, and I know all of these things, right?
Right.
But there is nothing like being out in the market. You
Mm.
don't get any better data than actually launching the thing, than
Mm-hmm.
actually talking to people, and by
Yeah.
actually failing.
Yeah.
And through those failures, through those trials and errors, so much of myself I've had to deal with. And I thought I dealt with it when I was in marriage, premarital counseling.
You thought, right?
But apparently, there's still some things that God is like, no, I have to get up out of you to get into this next season. So
Yeah.
it's before we got on, I was sharing with you the last couple of weeks have been really challenging for me.
Yeah.
They have been challenging for me because God has been really tearing me down. He's been removing stuff that I know He's like, you cannot take this with you. And
Yeah.
it's scary because we like comfort. We like what we know.
Sure.
It's our safety.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what we have to realize is that new levels require us to show up completely, completely differently. And
Yes.
it's tough.
Listen, that is a whole word, a whole sermon, a whole nother episode within itself. As you were talking, I was thinking about this one particular trip my husband and I took. I don't remember where we were going or where we were coming back from because it was in our coming back that we'd overbought, overpacked, the whole nine. And we got to the airport, and that lady was looking at that scale like, ma'am and sir, you're way over. And so we're like going through the bags, literally trying to figure out how we can repack. And do we actually need this? Is this something that we can throw away? Is this something we can leave here at this airport? Because, you're in a place now where you're being forced to have to look at your stuff,
Yeah.
right? And so as you were talking, it just reminded me of like that purging process of when you said there are some things in you that can't go where you're going, right? There's some old habits that you may have that can't go into this new season of what God has for you. There's things that you used to do when you were in this position or working this business that no longer are going to suffice over on this other side. But as you're talking, the beautiful thing about what you said is it's really about your mindset, right? Are you crying about the things that are maybe being birthed out of you, or are you excited about the new skills that you're learning, about the new doors that are opening? And it's really a challenge. So do we get excited about challenges or do we get defeated by challenges? So hopefully there's somebody listening that's just like, oh, I can resonate with that. And they're thinking about where they are in this position.
I love the story that you shared because that is a perfect illustration of that.
Mm.
Because getting on those flights, we want to try
Listen,
everything, and they like you either gonna pay for it or you ain't going to get on this
that's
plane.
right. That's
So which
right.
one you want? And it forces you to decide how important is something to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But life is all about perspective. It really,
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
And I think I'm realizing that at a deeper level each day of this
Hmm.
journey.
Hmm.
Your lived experience really is what you choose to focus on.
Yes.
It's about whether you choose to focus on your limitation or gratefulness. Be grateful
Yeah.
for what you have, but how you perceive is what you see.
Mm-hmm.
So real. And
Yeah.
too often we see through the eyes of our past experiences, our traumas, our fears, our hurts.
Mm-hmm.
All, I mean, the world makes it so easy to see through a veil of
For
negativity.
sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have to go far. But to that end, you don't really have to go far to see the blessings in life either. So it's a matter of how long do you want to stay there? I have my outlets. Like I give myself
Yeah.
my time and where it's just like, you know what, forget about it. We just gonna watch reality TV all day today and just
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It is
Yeah.
what it is. You have your moments.
Yeah.
Do believe in setting time limits for those moments. One thing, one moment can go into the next. The way to get over something is to get over it and focus on the next thing, you
Mm.
know? So
Yeah.
it's really on what you choose to see.
Yeah, that's good. Just again, it goes back to that mindset. How are you going to allow this thing that has happened to impact you positively or negatively? And then another good part of that you shared, which is important, is when we're in life transitions, it's important how we take care of ourselves, right? When you're talking about the reality TV, maybe I'm gonna just take this day to sit in reality TV world and really think about, maybe I'm just going to press pause or hit the reset button right now so that I can actually, you know, get my grounding, figure out where I'm headed, maybe shed some tears, give yourself a moment or a day or whatever to be in your feelings, but then you got to come out of that, right? Because moving through these transitions, it's never an easy process. But if you stop, nothing changes. Nothing can happen because you're not moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was this, I was listening to this podcast, and Les Brown was speaking, and he said, when we argue for our limitations, we get to keep them.
Mm,
I was just like, wow,
mm,
wow. And that
huge.
is what we do because it is so easy to sit in that.
Yes.
And I don't know where I got the put a timestamp on how long you're going to be sitting in your stuff. I think it was,
Yeah.
but put an end date.
Yeah.
So typically, depending on how bad it is, sometimes it's just a matter of hours. Sometimes it's just like, you know what, I just need to take the rest of the day off, go to bed early,
Mhm.
and just get up with a fresh mind.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
to your point, we just have to move forward
We
because
do.
time is going to go either way. So
Hmm.
show up in it is really up to you.
Yeah. As you talk about time and it's up to us and what we do with it, I think there's a big piece of reflection that comes up for me, and maybe just as you think back on how you've navigated things, how you're continuing to navigate things, when you reflect on maybe what you're most surprised about and how you've navigated this transition, what comes up for you?
I'll be super, super honest. The fact that I'm even on this show,
Listen, come through.
I I am an introvert. I have always prided myself on being a person that is behind the scenes. Why I got into marketing and I hated PR. Yeah.
Right? It'll show you real quick, right?
I liked being behind the scenes. And when it felt like God was calling me to become more visible, and
Yeah.
that would be when I was in corporate, in my performance reviews, that would be a point of feedback. You
Wow.
become more visible. And
Mm,
I had amazing managers, women managers, who were like, we're going to put you in position where you are more visible because, I was contributing valuable input and stuff like that. And they're like,
sure.
"My goodness, you need to be presenting these, not us." You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So kudos to, I always celebrate them because not every manager is like that. You know what
Mm,
I mean? But
hmm.
the fact that I'm walking this path and doing it,
Yeah.
I'm like, I did a 10-day speaking tour in Kenya in September. So
Nice.
25,000 people. That is not the girl I ever thought I would be. I
Yeah.
ever thought I would be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this part of this whole journey, it's just like God continues to blow my mind.
But I think the one thing, Candice, about what you just said is that you're willing.
Yes. I am a highly ambitious person. My greatest fear in life is that I don't reach my full potential. So if it means overcoming my fears, if it means pushing past the discomfort, I'd rather deal with the short term of that versus the long term disappointment in not
Mhm.
having done it.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm willing to try. If I fail, it's okay. At least I can say, hey, I
I
gave
did
it
it.
a good shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what do I have to lose?
Yeah. I love that you shared that. And I was going to ask about this earlier when you were talking about failure. And then we kind of divvied off into another part of the conversation. But because it's coming up again, I want to just have a conversation about that fear of failure because so many entrepreneurs, including myself, are out here when we start. Sometimes you have these great ideas and I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this and you're so excited, and then you don't really know what you don't know until you get to a point of where, oh, I need to know this but I don't know this. Or so many entrepreneurs who started and it failed, and then either they go back in or they don't. And some of the most famous people that we know, that was their story. I talk about it all the time with Walt Disney. They told him no, like, sir, this is not a good idea. You must be crazy that people are going to be excited about some person in a mouse suit walking around some big old land, right? And then what happened? Now it's, worldwide. It's known all over the world, and people come from every crook and cranny to Disneyland, to Disney World, right? But it was because there was something in this person that said, I'm not going to give up, right? That failure maybe wasn't even a failure, it was just a pivot. That's what I call it. I call it in life, I call it my pivot, right? This didn't work, so let me pivot. If it's important to me, I'm going to pivot to find another way. And you and I were talking about these iterations, right? When you have this idea of something and you're doing it, like you said, flying the plane while you're still building it. And then you're making these iterations like, I can make the tail better or the wings better, or we can put this with this just for this thing to fly better. And so for somebody that's listening and you're in a space where you feel like that thing that you're doing has failed, but your heart and your passion is still connected to that thing, pivot.
Yes. I love the reframe of
Yeah.
that. My reframe is there is no failure, there's only learning. Because that's the way you'll learn more from failing than you will from success any day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's still the reality of feeling that, right? It's still
Hmm.
the reality of feeling that. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay
Yeah.
because it only means that if you feel like a failure, it only means that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone.
Yes.
So
Yes.
and that's the part we miss. There's that gap. There's
Yeah.
a gap between where you are versus where you're striving for. So at
Yeah.
each level, when you go to another level, you start again at ground zero and
Yeah.
your way up, and then you go to another level.
Yeah.
So failure is something that we have to accept as part of the journey. Every
Hmm.
every the only true failure is the ones that stop and don't keep going.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. And if you decided that, you know what, this is not working, I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Yeah.
That's not a failure.
That's different. Yes.
That's
Yes.
not a failure.
Yes.
That's not a failure. But if you decide, okay, this is not working, it's like a maze. Okay, this is not working. Okay, we'll make this tweak. Okay, maybe that wasn't the right market. Okay, we'll make this tweak.
Yeah.
And you just got to continue zigging and zagging until you figure it out. And
Hmm.
I was just reminded today too, Jeff Bezos, he started selling books.
Listen.
So a lot of times we get so we only see our big vision.
Right.
And that's what we're like trying to build at the beginning,
Mm,
that big vision at the
yeah.
end. What trips us up is how do we whittle that down to the smallest
Mhm.
minimum viable product, the MVP, to just
Yeah.
get started with. That is where I believe a lot of the fear comes from, because
Hmm.
we're so focused on that big thing. And it's like, how am I going to make this big thing happen?
Right.
And we take on all the pressures because there's a huge gap between where we are and what we have,
For sure.
that big thing. But then if we take it down to, well, what is the minimum thing that I can use to start? So
Hmm.
what is to Jeff Bezos, what is the book that we can start with? And then go and build from there and take it piece by piece by piece. And I would also add that a big part of my strategy is my toolkit,
Yeah.
that I have for navigating not just through failure, but finding the courage and the strength to show up every day. Yes, I go to church on Sunday, but things like, it's the small things you do each day and the
Hmm.
small things that you intake every moment of every day. And we miss the importance of that. And I'm talking about everything from your social media feed. How is that
Hmm.
curated? Who are
Hmm.
you following? What shows are you watching?
Hmm.
What are you listening to on the radio? What
Hmm.
are you reading? How much news are you taking in?
Yeah.
Who are you listening to in
Hmm.
in your everyday life?
Yeah.
Because there are days when I do feel like giving up, where I
Hmm.
feel like I made the wrong decision, and then you look at what's happened at the wrong time.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
did I?
Yeah.
It's about where I choose to put my focus. But I am so blessed because I have not just a strong family tribe, but
Hmm.
my husband and a community in different forms. But from the moment before my eyes wake up, I'm in prayer. Before, I don't watch any social, I don't check anything before. My routine in the morning is I pray, I read my devotional, I'm getting ready to go to the gym. There's
Hmm.
I get a quote of the day every day, which is motivational. And then
Hmm.
I go to the gym. In the gym, I'm listening to praise and worship music because that's my praise and worship time. This is all before I'm checking one email,
Yeah.
one social post, any of that stuff.
Hmm.
Because I am intentional about guarding my mind and my heart.
Yes.
Then I also have my SOS plan. And my
Hmm.
SOS plan is my plan for when I'm failing or when I'm down. That's on my SOS is who I'm calling to talk about what kind of conversation.
Yeah.
It's emotional, like who I'm calling. What am
Mm.
I doing to get me back on track? So
Yeah.
a lot of the missteps is we don't plan for when we do fail. And
Hmm.
this keeps
Hmm.
us down.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good, Candice. That's so good. And I think we talk about the mental and the emotional aspect of transitions and how they really can impact us. And what I hear you saying is this important for me to have this SOS plan? And it's important for me to have a routine, not just to say, oh, I got this routine, but I don't follow it, but you follow it to a T. And that is your strength in how you navigate your days. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have to. For entrepreneurs, solopreneurs who want to go into business for yourself, remember, it's you are everything, CEO down to the janitor. And most businesses fail within the first 3 years. And while most businesses fail, probably due to cash flow, low sales, and all of those things, I think the real reason why most businesses fail within that time frame is because the business owners have not figured out how to hack and manage themselves.
That's good.
Self-management. You
Mm.
can spend a lot of time on busy work that makes you look busy, but you're not actually producing or productive. And that's where a lot of people get tripped up. So
Yeah.
I had a really good business coach, who taught me how you need to have a plan for how you're scheduling each day. If
Yeah.
you don't, because it's weird how time works when
Yeah.
you're not in the 9 to 5. Like the
Yeah.
day flies by super fast.
Yes. Yes. And what are you doing with it?
It goes by super fast. When you, for some reason, and when you're in the 9 to 5, it felt like it was a long time between 9 and 10 o'clock.
Right? It's like double hours.
When you are out here working for yourself, you will quickly lose time and look up and be like, what did I do today? And not much if you're
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah. So for those of you that are listening, you're considering entrepreneurship, you're in entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, you're in transition, maybe even from one job to another. This is really how we can navigate this in a way that allows us to be together, to understand where we're going, to pivot, to say, I tried this, but it did not work, and I'm okay with that. This conversation is about you and how you can challenge yourself even when you may not want to, how you can challenge yourself when things get hard, how you can challenge yourself when you want to give up. Because as y'all heard Candice say, and we were talking before, the podcast, and we were talking about how there are days where you do want to give up because it does get hard and it does get real. And you are questioning, what the heck is it that I'm doing? How did I get here? What's happening? God, are you still there? Like, we question all of these things, but at the end of the day, I think it comes back full circle again to the heart and the passion and how connected you feel to where you've been positioned. So, Candice, I want to ask, when you think about your business and you think about the pivots that you've made to get to where you are, what would be one thing that you would share with someone who maybe is in this transitional space that you have found to be helpful, beneficial for you, and or encouragement for somebody that's out here in your similar situation?
What has been helpful for me is remembering my why vision. It's easy to lose sight of that with
Yeah.
what's in front of you. And this
Mhm.
is within any context, whether you're transitioning in a job, whatever. There's something inside of you that is pushing you. For me, it literally felt like a fire burning inside of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even when I did not have the clarity and know what it was, or I just followed the flame inside. I
Yeah.
just following it, following it, and following it. And each point was a point of discovery. So I would say my advice would be to keep following it. Follow the flame, follow that gut, follow your intuition, follow
Mhm.
it. You're not going to get all the answers. If you think of it like a stone, and each time you're chiseling, you're
Yeah.
slowly carving a beautiful sculpture, you just can't see it.
I love that.
And you probably have a picture of what the vision is. But know this, it is going to take longer than you think. It's not going to look like how you think it's going to look. But if you really trust, and I don't know what everyone's faith or whatever, but trust in whatever that thing is inside of you.
Mhm.
Trust that, and know that yes, there will be peaks and valleys. Do it. It will be so worth it
Yes.
because you are so worth it. You are
Yeah.
so worth the shot. So give yourself a shot.
What they say, bet on you.
What do you got to lose?
That's it.
What do you
That's
got
it.
to lose? What
Yeah.
do you lose?
I often say nothing beats a failure but a try.
Exactly.
So we're going to try, we're going to pivot, we're going to iterate, we're going to do those things. Candice is saying bet on yourself. So
Yes.
we're going to do some betting today on ourselves and step out there. So Candice, how can people get in contact with you or message you or just learn more about you and the work that you're doing?
I'm Candice Jackson Long everywhere. You can reach me on my website. It's candicejacksonlong.com. More directly, I'm really active on LinkedIn. So you can send me a direct message. Those will be the two quickest ways to get in contact with me.
Fantastic. So, y'all heard her. You can get in contact with her either through her website or via LinkedIn. She is Candice Jackson Long. So, Candice, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I want to thank all of our beautiful listeners today for tuning in. I hope this conversation helped you to reflect on your own fears, doubts, and the growth that comes with embracing your purpose. Remember, the path to alignment isn't always easy, but when you push through those challenges, the blessings that follow can be truly transformative. If you're in the middle of a transition or if you're thinking about making one, trust that you are not alone and there's a powerful journey awaiting you on the other side. If today's episode resonated with you, don't forget to share it with someone who might need to hear it. And be sure to subscribe for more inspiring discussions. Until next time, stay brave, stay authentic, and keep walking toward your purpose. I am your host, Dr. Nikisha Tolbert Banks. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of my Feelings Over Tea podcast. I'm signing off, y'all. Take care. We're out.